Bitcoiners, I sat down with Anita Posch and had an absolutely awesome conversation about Bitcoin adoption across the globe. Anita has been traveling the planet, going to the forefront of Bitcoin adoption and the unbanked, and seeing how they are using Bitcoin and the Bitcoin technology stack in order to come online and really improve their lives in a significant degree. Anita has spent tons of time in El Salvador and has a lot of insight about what's happening there, and has spent a ton of time in Africa, and is planning to go back. So 2022, she's actually spinning up a massive education effort, going back to Africa, going back to Latin America, and continuing to spread amazing Bitcoin information. She's even put out a book and is working hard to translate that Bitcoin education book, Learn Bitcoin and Earn Bitcoin, in as many languages as possible, targeting the most underbanked nations in the languages that they use. Right now, it's in English, in Spanish, and I believe in German. And I think French is coming up next, and several others. So check out Anita, enjoy this interview with Anita Posch, and yeah, continue to Bitcoin across the globe. Peace. Bitcoiners, welcome back to the Bitcoin Magazine podcast and now Bitcoin Magazine Live. So I'm going to be sitting here with Anita Posch, who is a world traveler, Bitcoin educator, writer, and of course, podcaster, the host of the Anita Posch Show, a dual language Bitcoin show. Anita, welcome back to the Bitcoin Magazine podcast.
Hi, Christian. Thank you very much for the invitation.
So, Anita, you have been traveling the world, and you have obviously always had a focus on Bitcoin education. I want to hear about, what is happening in your life and catch up with what's new. And I especially want to get into your book that you just released, which you can see behind you if you're watching in video, and you so graciously sent to me and many other Bitcoiners as well. I guess, Anita, why don't you, catch up the viewers to what you've been up to, and tell us a little bit about Learn Bitcoin.
Yeah, sure. Thanks. So in the last 3 weeks, I visited El Salvador. I was there at Bitcoin Week. There were two conferences, the Adopting Bitcoin conference, which was about the Lightning Network and its development, and the La BitConf, the longest standing Latin American Bitcoin conference. They all took place in San Salvador, in the center of the capital of El Salvador, after each other. So the first days there was the Adopting Bitcoin conference, and the last 2 days the La BitConf. And what I liked very much about La BitConf was that they had an open day. So the first day was open to the public. Everybody could come and ask questions about Bitcoin. And I was also part of a German-Austrian group visiting El Salvador. And the first day we were there, we saw the LaGeo, the geothermal power station in a town called Berlin, which is funny because all of the Germans were with me. And it's the first power plant where they are mining Bitcoin. And we saw the 300 mining rigs at the moment in one container, and how they are like getting energy from inside of the volcano, which is hot water and steam. And they then take the dry steam to power the turbines. And at this power station, they are producing around 100 megawatt of electricity, and 1 megawatt of this is used for Bitcoin mining. So I saw it with my very eyes. So they really do it and have started Bitcoin mining, which I think is great, which is a great opportunity for a small country that's so much depending on the US at the moment to regain some self-sovereignty in the future.
So Anita, I guess before you continue, and I'm really excited to hear about the rest of your trip, but can you explain a little bit more about what's the connection between mining Bitcoin with a volcano and self-sovereignty, and like what's that connection, and how does Bitcoin help El Salvador and other countries with stranded energy resources gain sovereignty?
Okay, I mean, the basic thing with Bitcoin is that you regain self-sovereignty. Bitcoin is the only money where you can have self-ownership. So you're not depending on a hierarchical money that is given to you by the state, where a central bank that's actually not really independent, it's very political, is deciding on basically the value of your money. And with Bitcoin, you can regain self-ownership. So Bitcoin is actually money as it is meant to be, I think. It's the money from the people and for the people. And so it's not only on an individual level giving you more security and ownership of money, it's also giving it to countries. So even countries can become more self-sovereign and free themselves from a kind of a financial hierarchy, or I also call it patriarchy, that is oppressing them, or like indebting many countries, like many African countries are in deep debt because they always get money lended by the US and other Western countries, but these loans, they of course have to pay back. It's the same as if you get a loan from your bank, you have to pay it back with interest on top. And so basically what many Western countries are doing with poorer countries is extracting value from them, yeah, because the people in those countries then have to work for earning the money and paying it back. So basically, some people in the Bitcoin community also say that this is basically enslaving these people and these countries. And it's true, yeah. They are so dependent on also all sorts of regulations that come with that money, you know. And so if countries which have natural resources, like volcanoes, yeah, or water for hydropower plants, a lot of sun for solar plants, or like in Iceland, also geothermal energy, it's the perfect opportunity to mine Bitcoin. So you don't have to buy it from someone else. You have basically a natural resource that you can, on the one hand, you can hold it and hodl it like we individuals do, and hope and will gain a profit from that. Or you can even sell it to other countries for goods and services. So it's bringing self-sovereignty to nation states, which are very often very dependent on the US, but also on China, even more now at the moment. I've just seen a map of countries comparing, I think, like 20 years ago and now, the influence of the US and China or other big economies upon other countries. And you really could see the change. 20 years ago, the US was very dominant, and now it's China. China has gained much more financial power, basically through loans and investments into other countries. And it's also very highly invested in Africa. And I can't remember the country, I think it was Uganda. They defaulted recently their credit line to China. So they had to give them basically the investment. So now China is the owner of an airport, I think. I would need to look it up again, but that's how I remember it. And yeah, so Bitcoin is actually the perfect tool to regain sovereignty or gain sovereignty.
Wow. So, I mean, I understand that was a very hard question to just hit you with right out the gate there, but I do think it's good to like explain like the nuances there. But ultimately, you know, if for countries that do not have their own sovereignty, they're dependent on an empire or an emperor type country, such as the US. Now it seems it's China. They get stuck in these like financing debt traps, and these like things are like disguised as, oh, we're going to help them, we're investing in them, but it's really, you know, a contract that they can't really benefit from And it's ultimately, the purpose of it is to give China leverage or give the US leverage in that place. So what Bitcoin mining allows them to do is take resources that are there, monetize those resources, and then they have money that they own and they can utilize within their country without having to sign a contract, without having debt, without having to pay interest against it. And that's just a complete and utter game changer. And it's interesting seeing that happen in El Salvador. Let's get back to the rest of your trip.
Exactly. Yeah, so that was that visit at the geothermal power station. And after this week in San Salvador, I visited El Zonte, the in Bitcoin circles even famous town or village of Bitcoin Beach, where all these Bitcoin adoption in El Salvador started. As I understand it, 2 years ago, they started Bitcoin Beach. They started to build Hope House in El Zonte. And I was told by the owner of my hotel where I stayed, he explained, told me the story that actually in March 2020, when the pandemic started, there was a 6-month lockdown in El Salvador. So in El Zonte, which is a small village, and they live from tourism, basically. So of course, all the small shops, the informal shops and hotels had to be closed down for 6 months. And back then, Hope House and Bitcoin Beach began the community education on Bitcoin, and also giving out a little bit of Bitcoin via the Bitcoin Beach wallet. And so the inhabitants then could buy goods and services from in a circular way from their neighbors and companies and stuff like that. And as far as I understand it, then yes, Jack Mallers with Strike came, and they started also lightning remittances with Strike. And I think this got like the government got wind of it or heard about it. And as I think, then they might have guessed, okay, yeah, that's maybe a good idea also for the country to use Bitcoin as legal tender. And it was also great to see, because we also visited another town. It's called Sonsonate, and there is a cooperative with around 2,000 members. It's a part of the city. It's called El Soce. And there are 2 guys who are educating people about Bitcoin even longer than Bitcoin Beach, which I find very fascinating. And the funny thing is, they called themselves Bitcoin City. And they are doing education, like workshops, every Friday. And they are educating people on how to use Bitcoin, how to install a wallet and things like that. And there are now, I think, some 30 or 40 shops that are already accepting Bitcoin. And we were in a pupuseria and bought some pupusas for Bitcoin, and also saw one of the workshops where they were discussing possibilities to build houses with Bitcoin. So one of their projects is to show people that it's possible really to do things with Bitcoin. You know, it's not only digital money, you can also like build houses with it. And I think that's a great thing. And so there are like 2 communities in El Salvador already away from the capital, where you have the big companies like McDonald's and Starbucks, which integrated lightning payments, which is great. But I much more like the fact that in these small villages on the ground, like in a grassroots manner, people are learning about Bitcoin. And I find that very interesting, and I think that's the way it should be. I'm a little like, I have a little bit of mixed feelings about the governmental push to use Bitcoin. Because I think, you know, on the one hand, it's easy for the informal shops, like the informal businesses. They only have to install a wallet and then they can use Bitcoin. But the hotel owner, for instance, he said to me, you know, they said we have to use Bitcoin now, and I'm up for it. I like it. I like the idea. I like to try, but I don't have any possibility to get educated. I can't buy a hardware wallet in El Salvador. He said, can you please help me set something up to learn how to self-custody my Bitcoin? Because I'm also a business. I have to pay taxes of it, yeah? And I completely understand how difficult it has to be for them, because to be honest, it's even difficult for me here in Europe to set up my business with Bitcoin and all these like profits and losses and how to put them into my accounting and things like that. So I wish, or I hope that there will be more education for the people, more educational offer for the people of El Salvador. And yeah, I was happy to see also that many young people are really open to Bitcoin, and they also have installed other wallets than the Chivo wallet, which I think is very important. So in the Bitcoin Beach wallet is very much used in El Sonte. And also I saw people with the Moon wallet, with Breeze and other wallets. And I think that's a great way to go.
So I've heard the criticism that, you know, the government has really not done the best job of like being an educator and being a guide to navigating Bitcoin. It more or less just said, this is law, here's the wallet, here's your airdrop, figure it out. And while I definitely agree that it's negative, at the same time, I think it's expected. Like, you know, governments are governments. Like, look at all the other things that governments have been doing across the planet, you know, for other issues that we don't even have to get into. But I think the behavior is pretty consistent, you know, it's not unique behavior. So I think governments are going to government. And I spoke to a lot of the folks from the RSK team and that community in Latin America. And, you know, they let me know that they think this is an opportunity, because it's an opportunity for Bitcoiners to educate the people of El Salvador about Bitcoin and self-custody and the proper way to use it, and do it, you know, almost like community source the education rather than depend on the government's resources and the government's wallet, which, I mean, I'm sure you can talk about how shoddy that is. I've heard lots of criticism about that as well.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. We can't expect something completely open and from the open source community, and that they don't want to control anything. But as you say, the problems with the Chivo wallet are many. Yeah, the first thing is it's a custodial wallet. So if you use it, you don't even own your keys to your Bitcoin. Then the airdrop. I have heard most people actually exchange the $30 US, the Bitcoin in value, $30 US, either from the ATM to US dollars, or they used it for petrol, because this was 20% cheaper with Chivo wallet. In a way, it's a good idea to airdrop money like that and tell them just use it. But if you don't like also give the opportunity to learn about it, and then it doesn't help a lot. And the problem is also like maybe we were using a taxi or a cab driver, and he had the Chivo wallet, and I paid him from my Breeze wallet, and my Breeze wallet said Lightning payment successful, so I paid him. But we waited 10 minutes and he never received the payment, and I heard that from a lot of people. And so I paid him again in cash. So because I didn't want him to wait like a half an hour or maybe longer. That's one problem. Another problem is that you can't find, or it's very hard to find how to make a Lightning invoice. So many people then paid on-chain, and you know, the people there, they don't have any idea about Bitcoin. So how should they know what the Lightning network is, you know? And another point, the ATMs, I bought a little bit of Bitcoin. I used $20 and I got my Bitcoin on my wallet. This worked. But a friend of mine, he did it the other way. He sold Bitcoin for US dollars and he never got his $20 back. So we then even called the support hotline, but people then, that was from El Salvador, we called the support hotline in El Salvador and they told us we need to call in the US, the call center, and which we then didn't do because we are in Austria with our phones and yeah, you know, a whole mess. And it's also weird how this Chivo wallet was developed. Nobody really knows who's behind it. I heard various rumors, like I was told it's the Algorand app. Other people told me Cardano was involved. Both things where I think like, oh my God, yeah. I mean, this sounds to me like this could even be an attack on Bitcoin, because what's an attack on Bitcoin? You build a Bitcoin wallet that's not working and everybody is frustrated and everybody says Bitcoin doesn't work. Yeah, so I really don't know. It's like you say, on the other hand, it's up to the people themselves to educate themselves a little bit, you know? And I think this will happen. If people have positive experiences, they will tell their friends and families. And that's also the seeds that Bitcoin Beach or Bitcoin City SV are sowing, you know, explaining to people how it is, helping them out. They also, if people are in need of US dollars, they exchange the Bitcoin to US dollars for them. So I think it's tiny little baby steps, but that's also what is needed for a sustainable adoption. You know, this hierarchical push from the government, is not sustainable because people are frustrated, it doesn't work, and then they might not use it again. But if your uncle, your brother, your daughter tells you, hey, I used it for remittance and I got my money out of the ATM and it was not a problem, then other people will do it as well. And I think that's the way also to spur adoption.
Yep. My fellow plebs, the Bitcoin conference is back. Bitcoin 2022, April 6th through the 9th, is the ultimate pilgrimage for the Bitcoin ecosystem. The Bitcoin conference is the biggest event in all of Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. We're leveling up and making this bigger and better than ever. I'm talking straight to the moon with the 4-day-long festival in the heart of Miami at the Miami Beach Convention Center. This has something for everyone, whether you're a high-powered Bitcoin entrepreneur, a core developer, or a Bitcoin newbie. Bitcoin 2022 is the ultimate place for you to be with your people and celebrate and learn about the Bitcoin culture. So make sure to go to b.tc/conference to lock in your official tickets and use promo code Satoshi for 10% off. Want more off? Pay in Bitcoin and you'll receive $100 off general admission and $1,000 off whale pass. Those are stackable. So go to b.tc/conference and attend the best conference in Bitcoin history. Yep.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree with you. And, you know, you've been traveling in Africa as well and doing education in Africa too. And you can look at Nigeria as kind of the opposite. The government is against it. And that has spurred organic adoption in a very beautiful way. I guess just closing thoughts on El Salvador before we move to a new topic. You know, what's your pulse on the situation? Are you bullish on it? Are you bearish? Do you think that the community is going to help educate, or are you concerned? What's the overall sentiment on what's happening in El Salvador, since you now spent a lot of time and you've seen the domestic as well as the international, you know, education efforts there? You know, you saw the conferences, you were there for a while.
Yeah, I mean, I have mixed feelings. Yeah, on the one hand, I find it's great that there are these communities and that people like Bitcoin tourists are coming and want to spend their Bitcoin there. And on the other hand, I find the governmental approach to it, I'm really not sure about all this. You know, we will see how it will play out in the end. I mean, until now, I think nobody knows who really has the keys to the Bitcoin, like the 1,300 Bitcoin or something, what it is now. I'm also really not sure if the president is not playing Bitcoiners, like trying to get money inside of the country. The idea of Bitcoin City, I'm actually, I don't know. I'm an urban planner. It's my basic education. And I've seen a lot of planned cities, like governmental planned cities, that turn out to be horrible places. And if you want to have a livable city, it has to grow organically. That's my opinion. And also, like the location where it's at, it's also at the volcano. And I was told that this is actually a dead volcano. It doesn't produce any energy anymore. It's at the Gulf of Fonseca, which is actually at the border of Honduras and Nicaragua, where in the last years, you already had tensions. And I'm not sure if Honduras and Nicaragua really like the fact that there will be a planned city. And also I think about the people who live there now, and who is going to live in Bitcoin City. It will be foreigners, as far as I understand, like the Bitcoiners who want to go there and have a big vision. But what is left for the people on the countries, like on the other side of El Salvador? There is so much that you could do with the Bitcoin bonds, with the money. I think Bitcoin mining is a perfect idea, but you could also like spend on infrastructure, on education. The educational level on average is very low. The income on average is $200 or $300. Yeah, the infrastructure, the roads are like how is it called? Mud roads. They are. You don't have public transport and things like that. So I think there are a lot of opportunities, and I'm very positive about the use of Bitcoin in general for a nation state and for the communities and people, but I'm not sure how this will play out. So that's basically my basic feeling about El Salvador.
No, I think very, very fair. And I too am very skeptical about a planned city. But if anything, really what, Bukele and El Salvador's government is doing is expediting the shift of the Overton window, like what is possible, right? So now a nation state has done Bitcoin bonds. Now a nation state has made Bitcoin legal tender, and now it's on the table for other nation states. And I think that's the bigger story. Obviously, if El Salvador is a failure, that's kind of a stain on Bitcoin. And, it's kind of shows like, ultimately Bitcoin is for enemies, right? Bitcoin is just a tool. It can be used to scam. It can be used for normal people to save value. And I think that predominantly most people are good people, and most people use tools for good. And that's, the beauty of Bitcoin. But it's interesting to see hyper Bitcoinization in real time. I have to tell you that.
Yeah, I agree absolutely. And you're right. I mean, Bitcoin, it doesn't change Bitcoin, Bitcoin, TikTok, next block, it will go on. So I'm on your side.
So I want to talk about your book, and then maybe we can talk about your Africa travels and future travels. But Learn Bitcoin and Bitcoin education, it's been a huge part of your brand and what you've been, doing in the Bitcoin space. Let's talk about, talk about the book and then what it took to create a book. It seems like such an undertaking.
Yeah, it's a big undertaking. That's true. I think you have to be naive in the beginning and think, oh, I'm done in 2 months. And in the end, you realize, oh my God, this is a whole year now. I mean, not the writing alone. I have done now, with the help of some supporters, a German translation and a Spanish translation. And I hope that it will get translated in more languages. So my goal was to write the book for beginners and people who are a little bit experienced, but not like people who already have set up their own node and things like that. So when you're on that level, the book might not be for you. But I think it's a great entry, a great start. It's something that I didn't have in 2017. And I think there are a lot of Bitcoin resources, also free resources, which is great. But I don't know of any book that is like combining the greater story around Bitcoin. So why do we need Bitcoin? What's the history and philosophy? What is fiat money? Where does our money come from? Why do we need something different than the petrodollar? What's about this geopolitical game, basically this hegemony of money and power, and how can we solve that problem with Bitcoin? And many people don't even see that as a problem. So I think you have to start with what is money and where does it come from? And why do we need something else? And the second part is a practical guide. So I put an emphasis on, I want people to become self-sovereign in the sense that they self-own their Bitcoin. So I encourage people to not hold their Bitcoin on Coinbase, Kraken, or anything else, but to have the seed, the private keys by themselves. And because I meet many people and they say to me, oh yeah, I have Bitcoin. And I say, where? Yeah, on Kraken. And I say, okay, you don't really own it. And they, what? And so the goal is to get people to do self-custody with hardware wallets and to show them other possibilities. What's the next step? To have your own full node and use Lightning wallets. And also it's called Learn Bitcoin with L in a bracket. So I'm also talking about how you can earn Bitcoin now. So not only Bitcoin earning through like freelancing, for instance, and you ask the company, hey, can you pay me in Bitcoin? But also the new possibilities we have with the Lightning Network, which enables creators and artists and YouTubers, bloggers from all over the world globally to earn Satoshis and to have basically an income that's completely independent of anyone else. It's just between you and your community, or you and your contractor in a way. And that globally. And I think that's a huge step also for adoption. And so, yeah, the book is basically around these basic concepts that how you can start to earn and use and hold Bitcoin safely.
That's awesome. And it's very interesting. I feel like there's kind of a cyclicality to, earning Bitcoin via mining it. And then I guess so mining Bitcoin, buying Bitcoin. And then I think the majority of people are going to actually get Bitcoin via earning Bitcoin. And then ultimately adopting Bitcoin as just their monetary unit and system. So I love that you're teaching people about all the resources, how you can get your company to pay you in Bitcoin and things like that. And I can say as a business that, works with a lot of people internationally, Bitcoin helps a lot because if I want to work with someone in Africa, 90%, like if you use fiat, they're priced out because of the fiat system. So they just can't even work with me, even though, their income demands would be much less. And I could actually, get great work done for much less. But with Bitcoin, because I can just send it to his wallet or that person's wallet, it completely brings them online to the job market. And again, for a business like me, it removes complexity completely, which is absolutely amazing. So I think that the next level of adoption is going to come through earning.
Yes, I completely agree. And as you say, there are so many people excluded from the fiat system because they don't have an ID, they don't have a bank account. And I mean, the banking system in many African countries is broken anyhow. So it's completely difficult and sometimes even impossible to send money through the banking system. So yes, as you say, I can pay someone in Uganda now with Bitcoin and they have it in like 10 minutes or even less, which would take me days and cost a lot more with US dollars or euro.
No, 100%. It is so underrated. It is so unbelievably underrated. And I personally think Bitcoin adoption is going to come fast, because I think most people that say it's going to take a long time just completely underestimate the utility that it brings, because I think Bitcoin brings energy online. We talked about that. Bitcoin brings people online. Like, it brings, human capital to the global economy in a way that's never been possible before. And I think that there's so much growth that is possible that Bitcoin is just going to get adopted hand over fist once people realize it.
Yeah, I see that too, and it's also fascinating, and I'm enjoying to see that Bitcoin Beach leads as an example for many other communities which are starting now. Like, there is now Bitcoin Beach Brazil. There is a Bitcoin Beach Portugal I've seen. There is Bitcoin Ekasi. It's a township in South Africa, in Mossel Bay. Then now I've heard from a new educational community in the Congo, in the city of Goma, where a blogger and a restaurant worker started to send Bitcoin to families after a volcano eruption. So they also have volcanoes, which would be cool for Goma, Congo, to mine Bitcoin. But they already mine Bitcoin in the Congo. Sébastien Gouspio, they have the Big Block Data Center. They already mine Bitcoin there. So what I find great is to see that Bitcoin Beach is an example for many other people who are like joining now and seeing that it's possible, and they are doing their own educational efforts in their communities. And I find that's exactly the way how it works and how it should be and how it works best.
Absolutely. I mean, I think it's beautiful. And, before we pivot to taking a deeper dive into Africa, why did you write the book Learn, Earn Bitcoin, right? Why did you think that you needed to put in all this year's work and to get this information out in book form?
Yeah, on the one hand, because I think there is no book like that. Most books are theoretical on the side of what is money, what is Bitcoin, and things like that, or why should you invest in Bitcoin? So that was that. And on the other hand, it was a little bit my own lexicon, like I've learned so much in the last 4 or 5 years, and I tend to forget things. And I always wanted to have my own knowledge base where I can like look up things again, which I already understood, but sometimes I forget. And so I think it's a great way to look up things for me too. And I learned a lot in writing, because if you want to educate people and if you want to write a book, you have to get deep into the stuff. And it was a tool for me also to understand Bitcoin better and better. And I'm learning every day. And so it's also a difficult thing to write the book, because in Bitcoin, things never stop. I could write on and on and on. And as soon as you're done, you can start all over again. Yeah, basically, it was for me also a deeper learning about Bitcoin.
Awesome. You hear that all the time is, when you take the time to actually create a book, then you have to just go through such a personal learning journey yourself to make it perfect and ready for that final product. And I totally can empathize with, the fact that like, here's how to do something in Bitcoin. And then a week later that changes, that's like every single week. So I'm sure that was quite tough. And, I hope that, maybe there's an updated version in a few years and stuff like that, and you keep it going.
Yeah, I definitely will update it. And I mean, I just want to say the basic concepts, like how to get into the state of self-sovereignty, how to own your keys, the basic concept will stay the same in the next year. So just not that people think it's already obsolete. That's not true. But I have one chapter about the ecological footprint of Bitcoin, because there was this big, or is, or has been this big discussion about energy waste for Bitcoin and things like that. And as soon as I wrote the book and published it, China banned Bitcoin, and all the miners went from China to the US, and there they are much more using hydropower and sustainable resources to mine Bitcoin. That's the kind of things that change all the time. And also, of course, the price.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Just even listening to old, like a few week old podcasts, if you talk about the price, it's out of date. But absolutely, the environment always changes. But in terms of, you know, the mining FUD, I'm glad that you address it in the book, because the FUD continues. You know, we left China, but now it's like, oh, mining's still bad because of so and so and so. And personally, I am hopeful, and I cannot wait for the day for real environmentalists, real people who are trying to help and save this planet, realize that Bitcoin and Bitcoin mining is one of the most useful tools to actually do that. And it's one of the most useful tools to help level grids out and manage energy and incentivize in a decentralized market way to build out energy infrastructure, which is, you know, kind of ties back to the volcano mining that's happening in the Congo and in El Salvador, and a lot of the other stranded energy mining and stranded resource mining that is coming online. Anita, let's jump over to what your travels are in Africa, what's happening in Africa, and, you know, maybe what your future travels have in store.
Yeah, I was in March 2020, before the pandemic. I visited Zimbabwe and Botswana, because everybody was or has been talking very much about how Bitcoin would be perfect for Zimbabwe because of the hyperinflation there and the dictatorship. So as we know, Bitcoin in a country where you have authoritarian leadership that is actually extracting all the value from the people. So Bitcoin would be, or is also, the perfect source of value for the people there. And I wanted to research that. Is it true? How far are they? Are people really using Bitcoin? And that was, at the time, the Lightning Network. Yes, we already had it, but it was not adopted like it's now. There were much less possibilities. There was already stack work where you can do small tasks and earn Lightning. And I also showed it there to people, and it worked very well. And now I want to go back this year in 2022 to Zimbabwe. I would like to visit Nigeria and South Africa. But as we know now, with the new COVID variant, I'm not sure if it's possible to do that in spring as it was planned, because in Zimbabwe, they have very harsh quarantine regulations. So even inhabitants of Zimbabwe, when they come back from a travel, have to go into a 2-week quarantine in a hotel that is actually, so you have to use it. You don't have any choice. You can't do quarantine at home. You have to go into a hotel, even if you live in Zimbabwe, and you have to pay a lot of money for these hotels. So it's completely absurd in Zimbabwe, really. And so I'm going to see. Maybe I go first back to Latin America, because that's also on my plan for 22, to go to Venezuela maybe, or Argentina, to look for people, communities who are interested in me visiting them and sharing knowledge and helping them. I'm actually in the middle of founding an NPO, which will be called Bitcoin for Fairness Foundation, because I want to broaden basically my work and I'm raising funds at the moment, grants for this project. And yeah, so I'm planning to do workshops there, to bring hardware wallets, to help people, onboarding them to the Lightning Network. And of course, also to build bridges between the people in Africa and our so-called Western countries, because I mean, yesterday I learned now there's the B Trust, which I think is a great thing, where Carla Kirk-Cohen is a part of the board, and Obi from the ex-CEO of CoinFloor. I think it's funded by Jack Dorsey and others. I'm not quite sure about it, but it's called B Trust. And I think they want to help developers in emerging countries to fund them to learn about Bitcoin development. And that's quite perfect, because that's also what I intended to do, to go there, to get to know Bitcoiners and people who are interested in learning more also about developing for Bitcoin or on top of Bitcoin, and to connect them with European companies or US companies and things like that. And of course, I will do podcast interviews from there, so that also the people and communities from these countries have a voice, or can share their voice here in our part of the world, let's say it like that.
That's absolutely incredible. I guess tell us, I mean, how much can you talk about this new initiative, this new education and nonprofit initiative that you're starting up?
How much can I talk about it? I can talk about in the way that it's going to be a non-profit organization. I'm just talking with people who I already know, who have the same intentions. I try to get them on board. I I've already like 2 donors, 2 companies that told me they will support me with like 50K in total. And I'm looking for about 175K for the whole year for all the work we're doing. And all the workshops, of course, will be free. So, and I'm also going, all the material we are going to build together with the people. Like, for instance, I want to translate the part of my book to Shona and Ndebele, the Zimbabwean native languages, and also to French. And because of the French African countries, there's a lot of education in English, but not so much in French. And this all will be basically done for the people to use for free. And so I'm looking for donors and companies. So if anybody is interested in supporting that initiative, I'd be glad to explain that in detail.
Awesome. Well, hey, to all the listeners out there, live or recorded, go hit up Anita. We'll have the best contact in the show notes. Anita, I mean, hearing about everything that's kind of happening in Africa and across the world is like, wherever there's bad money, there's corrupt politicians, and even like the hotel rule in you said Zimbabwe, right? You see those rules in many places, and all that does is price out travel. It just prices it untravels people. You know, governments are great. You know, unbanking comes from governments. Governments unbank people, right? It's not like if everyone uses cash, the unbanked use cash, right? But if it wasn't for regulation, if it wasn't for KYC, AML, if it wasn't for all the all the oversight that governments put on banking institutions, this unbanking wouldn't exist in the way that it does right now. So, again, I see Bitcoin as a solution that kind of solves a lot of these issues. And when I hear about just these fundamental corruption issues in Africa, like you're discussing, or Alex Gladstein has surfaced with a lot of his amazing work, and many others, you can just see that there's such a dire need for Bitcoin. And when Bitcoin is adopted, the potential is so incredible. It's so incredible. And it's either Bitcoin unlocks that potential, or that potential potentially gets enslaved by the Chinese or some other, imperialist effort.
Yeah, I think it will take some time until all people realize that, I think the first thing that will come are all those CBDCs. I call them panoptic coins, which is actually not coined a term by me. I heard it. Panoptic coin is a perfect explanation for what CBDCs are. They are surveillance coins. So you're right. I think corruption with Bitcoin while using Bitcoin is not possible because Bitcoin is transparent. So if, for instance, I get funds in Bitcoin and my Bitcoin address, you can see what's happening with the money. That's the form to have no corruption anymore. But I'm not sure if really people will get less corrupt through Bitcoin. I mean, I hope so, but I'm not sure about that.
Bad money enables corrupt people, though. Like
yeah,
you're saying,
sure.
It enables corrupt people and it creates an incentive for them. And I think from an underlying level, Bitcoin makes it harder for those people to come to power.
Yeah, if they would need to show their Bitcoin and what they're doing with it, yes, absolutely. And
or get their Bitcoin or print their Bitcoin. The fact that you can't even printing your Bitcoin, can't freeze accounts on Bitcoin. It's a game changer, Anita. And I'm unwilling to budge on the fact that it will change the incentive systems.
Yeah, it will definitely. And one thing I like to say, and I heard that, and I think it's one of the best hashtags I ever seen, is keep the unbanked unbanked, or keep Africa unbanked. Yeah, because all those unbanked people, they won't have IDs in the future as well. So if the banks come along and say, or altcoins come along and say, we are solving the problem, we are banking the unbanked, don't please go away. Yeah, the unbanked don't need you. They just need to use Bitcoin and they can stay unbanked. Actually, we should get the banked unbanked. Yeah, so that's actually my goal. Yeah.
Unbank the bank with Bitcoin.
Unbank the bank is also a possibility.
So I like that. Anita, this is a great conversation. Thank you so much for coming on. Thank you so much for the work that you do. And, traveling across the world is not easy. Going to a lot of these countries and educating people is not easy work. It is definitely a labor of love. And I know that you care deeply about people and helping the world and, using Bitcoin as a tool to do that.
Thank you very much, Christian. Thanks for the possibility to speak with your listeners here. And yeah, I hope I can do a little bit of good.
Awesome. Well, hey, I guess just to close it out, Anita, where can people learn more about you, the book, support your travel, support your nonprofit efforts?
That's cool.
Give one last plug.
Yeah, cool. Thanks for that. So you can donate at anita.link/donate. My updates are all on Twitter, Anita Posch. And the last thing, my book is at learnbitcoin.link. It's available in English, Spanish, and German.
All right. Awesome. Well, everyone, go follow Anita, check out her work, and ultimately, try to educate people about Bitcoin and try to help people get onto this Bitcoin system. I think it's going to solve a lot of problems. And I know Anita feels the same way. But until then, catch me at CK_snarks. Check out Bitcoin Magazine at Bitcoin Magazine. Peace. Yep.